All right, welcome back. Favor Ori, the Chief Executive Officer at Payday, joins me right now from the United States of America. Hello, Favor, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Favor. Now, let's get started. I know you're in the United States, but you've not experienced what Nigerians have been experiencing in the past few days. What is your own experience? So how can you really interpret what has been happening to us here in Nigeria vis-a-vis your experience over there in the United States of America, where that economy is an economy that operates on less cash? In fact, for many Nigerians that travel to the United States, for example, when you go shopping and you bring out your $100, the American will know that you're a foreigner. I'll be like, sometimes for me they'll be like, you're Nigerian. Sometimes they will take the $100 bill and be looking at it. Are you sure it's real? Because they hardly use the $100. And if we are really on the right path.
Nice. All right. So I'll tell what I've heard and what I've seen. So yesterday we had a couple friends who reached out to us. They were like, I can't log into my bank account. I can't make payments. I can't transfer money, banks are down, and I'm like, have you tried Payday? And they basically signed up on Payday. Payday is what we run. Signed up on Payday, they're able to like send money. So when all the banks were down, Payday could still transfer money, could still pay your bills, buy airtime, etc. So the issue now is that Africa has basically been trying to keep up with the digital payments pace globally. I can basically see this especially in Nigeria, I can see this in how much we received in investments in the billions and how pretty much partnerships, etc. So we've tried to like keep up with the pace, growing really fast as well. But there's an issue. Like the surprise here is that cash is still king. You still need money. You still need cash to transact. You still need P2P. You still need POS. All these things are critical, right, to a digital economy. So what I've seen so far in the past couple of weeks would be people not being able to pay for stuff because they don't have the cash, or they can't pay because the cards are not working, or because the bank accounts are not working. It's a whole thing, right? But like it's fixed. We already have lived in the UK, etc. I think that's common is that we have a platform, Apple Pay, there's Google Pay, there's cards, everything. You can just like choose how you want to pay. So from there, when you're sending money, let's just go a beg, and you're like that kind of thing. That's what I've seen so far, and that's how I'm comparing both places.
Can cashless transactions in Nigeria really be easier? Because just like you said, many Nigerians, you need to see when we want to make payments here in Nigeria. For the POS agents, or if you enter a store, you want to pay with a POS, they will hold the POS machine like this and be doing like this and be going to, is there network? Where is network? You understand? You understand what I mean? Or you're like, okay, let me go out. Outside, or you bring out the card, you put it in, you slide it into the machine up to 3 times. You make a transaction on a banking app. The money has left your account has been debited by the bank, but the recipient has not been credited, and the person is saying, I'm not going to allow you go until I get the money. Meanwhile, the money has left your account. So how do we get out of all of this?
I feel like we're on track. So from connecting Nigeria, like I see how Starlink is basically trying to bringing internet. That's the first thing. That's the first infrastructure you need to basically build an economy. To basically new fintechs launching, building new products, building new POS devices that are better connected to banks, that work seamlessly, etc. We are on track. We're not there yet, but we are very much on track. We've seen people like Kudi, we've seen people like Fincra, we've seen people like Paystack all roll out POS devices, and this is going to basically change things, right? It's going to be faster, it's going to be seamless, it's going to be pretty hard to make payments, and there's going to be internet as well. I was at SpaceX a couple hours ago, and we have plans to basically deploy routers, a lot of them, to people across Nigeria, across Africa as well. So it looks like we didn't really anticipate this to happen. So when we basically went online cashless, there was like a whole, I would say, basically people could not, banks could not handle the traffic they were seeing, right? So I feel like one fix would be basically bracing up to scale, not scale when it's time to scale, basically be elastic. When that time comes to scale, you scale. When you're basically scaling down, you scale down. That's one way, that's one fix. But like, I feel like, yeah, we're on track. We've seen fintechs come in, we've seen investments come in. So we just need time to just make this thing happen.
Do you see a point whereby it will get better vis-a-vis? I liked what you said. We're seeing some kind of innovation. Starlink has come in. We're seeing a lot of upgrade around even infrastructure. But the question also would be, when are we going to get it right? Must we suffer like this to get to the promised land? Because many Nigerians, some are even dying on the queues right now trying to get their cash. So is there an alternative before we get to that point? And that brings me to the next question, which is, can Nigeria really operate a cashless economy like the United States, or it will be a less cash? I don't know if they mean the same thing, but I hope you understand what I mean. A less cash or a cashless, yes.
Okay, so we can. It's easy. Pretty much, there needs to be like a strong collaboration between fintechs and banks. We are not a bank. We are the technology company, right? We just take the best of what the banks have to offer and build on top of their infra. The people like Flutterway, Paystack, and co. So we are already on track to do this. And let me just talk about Payday right now. Yeah, you can basically use Payday to pay for your bills, transfer money to your family and friends, send money abroad, receive payment from abroad. It works everywhere. It's fine. And this is because we're still using the same banking infra that the banks have, just that we're doing it differently. It's still your own bank account, it's still your own virtual account, it's still your own cards, but we just have a way to finesse it and just make it work, right? So there needs to be this collaboration between us, technology companies, and banks that have the infra, and just like make things happen. The infra is already there. It's not been built. It's already there, sitting down right there. We just have to like make it, deploy, scale it. That's what we need to do. So it's now. It's not in the future. Payday works now, and people are using it. So I feel like we should collaborate more. More fintech should come out. Should also like partner with banks to make this happen.
If guys like you and your colleagues in that sector, in the digital or in the fintech space, are making this kind of strides, and you're using the same banking infrastructure, but over here in Nigeria, it is actually messing up for those of us that are making and all of that. So I'm wondering how you people meander the same banking infrastructure that we have here to make it easier for those that are on your platforms. How are you guys doing that? What exactly is it? Do you guys have two heads?
We have one. So pretty much, Payday is an American company. It's a Canadian company, it is a Rwandan company, and it's soon to be a Nigerian company. So what we do is, I feel like for you to be global, you have to have global partners, right? So we partner with American banks, fintechs, like Flutterway and co. We basically use these guys to be global, right? So that's the hack. So to be global, to issue cards, issue virtual accounts, issue everything that works globally, you need to be global. You can't be doing local all the time and expect this thing to work like magic. It doesn't work that way. But like that's it.
Okay, let's talk about the issue of, I know there are virtual cards right now, and some people in Nigeria do even have virtual cards, but are we looking at a scenario where there would be like, is that like virtual bank accounts? And how do you even integrate the rural population? Because when we're talking about financial inclusion, Nigeria still have a lot of percentage of the unbanked in our society. So how do we get this category of people to harness, to get them into the net, really, and definitely to harness these opportunities we're talking about? I also know now that there are some, sometimes you don't even need a bank account now to make payments. All you need is your phone number. With your phone number, you can just transfer the money. But how do we get these people, to be financially included and access these services without so much knowledge?
I see. So your first question, are there virtual accounts and how do they work? So there are virtual accounts. We currently issue about 20 virtual accounts on Payday, but we have just 2 rolled out. Actually 3, Nigerian accounts, GBP accounts, American accounts. It looks like this. So this is like American accounts, Swedish accounts, UK accounts. It's a lot, right? These are account numbers. And there's this thing we call one IBAN, one international bank account number we give to you. One account number can receive payment across the world. So if I go to Payday now and I go to my GBP account, I can basically receive payment from any country in the world with this account number that sits in the UK. And if I basically go to my US account, I can receive payment from across the world as well. So virtual accounts exist. It's just about going to talk to the banks abroad. Hey, can we issue your cards to Nigerians or your accounts to Nigerians, and talk about how to verify them properly, etc. So yeah, they exist. I think I'm trying to remember your second question.
The second question is about the unbanked population. Because what you're saying right now, yes, may just be esoteric. One of those things you're saying right now could just be esoteric for different category of people. Getting the unbanked people, how do they get access to even the basic services of, you know, accessing or sending monies across with their phones, even if those phones are not Android phones, they are like the Nokia 3330 of those days and all of that.
Yeah, we need to promote mobile money. It's a very big. If you go to Kenya, you see M-Pesa. It's the craziest thing ever I've seen in my life. So mobile money in Nigeria needs to be very big. So that way, your account number, your like I said, the phone number can be an account number. It can be a multi-currency account number. So it doesn't have to be just Naira. It can be a US. I might think a crazy, but like your Nigerian number can be a US bank account as well. So promote mobile money, make it grow, scale it. That's how you basically bank the unbanked.
That's how. It's nice that you gave the example of. Kenya is such a very good example when it comes to mobile money transactions and the speed at which the Kenyan economy has grown because of it. In fact, I think the Okada people in Kenya they don't even use cash, and because of M-Pesa and what we saw, the revolution with Safaricom many years ago, they were able to put that together. But as we close this interview, let's talk about cross-border payments in Africa, especially now with African Continental Free Trade Area. We now know that we have a continent of 1.3 billion people, and that is trade. How do we ensure that cross-border payment? I also do know that after the African Continental Free Trade Area came up with PAPs, what they call PAPs. Was it last year or so? Yeah. But how do we how do we encourage cross-border transactions, cross-border trade, bearing in mind that as Africans we do not even trade with ourselves enough? We trade with the rest of the world and ourselves.
Okay, just to clear the air first, I keep hearing people say payments in Africa is 1% built. That is very wrong. You have no idea what they are saying when they say that. So basically, it's built. We have infra, crazy infra. There is Federal, there's Space, like there's MFS Africa. There is a lot of infra out there. But it's about using the infra. It's about using pretty much utilities on the infra, right? So to promote cross-border payments in Africa, we just have to build on. When we launched Payday, we launched in 11 countries. So Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda. That's how I know about these corridors. And we're planning to relaunch in those corridors as well. So we already have the infra built, and they're still building it. You have to use the OGs. They've done this work, all the intense work, connected to banks, mobile money wallets, etc., in the millions. And all we just need to do now is basically like build more paydays, basically let people send money across border, send to Nigeria, to Kenya, to Ghana, to Rwanda, etc. So it's already there. It's just a matter of time to just build it out and roll it out and scale it.
Just a quick one before you go. How do you settle? Because there's a question of settlement in those. Are you settling in a third party with a third party currency, for example, the dollar? Because what PAPs of the African Continental Free Trade Area idea is that it will settle in the local currency of that country. So, for example, if I want to trade with Namibia, for example, or I want to trade with which other country? Okay, I want to trade with Ghana, for example, and I need to send money to that person, or that person is buying something from me. The person will send me across the platform. I'll get my money in Naira. The person will get his or her money in cedis and not dollars. I hope you understand what I mean.
I do. So I'll give you an example. When we launched Payday, we get users to send money from Nigeria to Rwanda. So when they put the Naira on Payday and they send francs to Rwanda. So we settle locally using partners like Federal and Co. Then in Nigeria, we basically settle as well USD and Co. using local partners as well. That's, like I said, we're a technology company. We just take the best and brightest of the infras and just put it together. So we have all the partners sitting down there with all the banks. It's all the money in the billions sitting down there. All we just do is basically call your APIs and push money out.
Okay. I think, Favor, we'll leave it at that. So what you're telling us today, I hope we'll get to speak in 2 years' time, and let's see how far we've gone. Yes, let's see at least between now and 2 years' time, from now to 2 years' time, let's see how far we've gone, if the financial inclusion story would have been better, and if we'll see more people in the rural areas be more financially included. So thank you for joining us. I know it's still early over there in the US. I shouldn't say you should go back to sleep because I know you're in a meeting.
All good.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. I've been speaking with Favor, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Payday. Let's quickly take a break, and when we come back, we will be focusing on the 2023 elections. Will it be an economic election? What are the deciders? The most expensive election ever. Do you know that? Yes. So Saturday's election, in fact, February 25 election, March 11 election will be the most expensive and the costliest election ever. Over 350 billion naira that will be spent, apart from 50 billion naira annual budget for INEC alone. Will that money deliver value to us as a country on Saturday and on March 11? We will be talking about that with my guest when we return this day.
Great Nigerians, great obedience. Welcome to the revolution for a new Nigeria. On Saturday, 25th February, the Nigerian presidential election is a revolution at the polls for visionary leadership. The leadership of Peter Obi and Dati Baba Ahmed of the Labour Party LP with the Papa, Mama and Pikin logo. It's a revolution for change that will be effected by our votes with our powerful PVCs. It's a generational revolution by the youth. The obedience and other Nigerians will love our great country Nigeria dearly. It is a transformational revolution to get Nigeria back on track and move us from what is wrong to what is right. It's a revolution to unlock the greatness in Nigeria and Nigerians, the land and its people. A new Nigeria. It is possible with the right leadership. You will be that leadership. This time we won't miss it. Our votes will count.
Here is a new and refreshing offer for our esteemed audience across the globe. The new AIT Cloud TV is an online streaming service that offers you attractive opportunities to view our rich, exciting, and entertaining programs anytime, anywhere. AIT Cloud TV is available on the web on www.ait.app, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Android TV. You can also download the mobile app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Simply connect to the internet, download the app, register, and watch live or catch up on unlimited hours of exciting shows. AIT Cloud TV. TV on the go.
All right, welcome back to the program. My guest is joining me right now, Wilson Eromo, is the senior economist at Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Tajuddin Ibrahim is the director, research and strategy, Chapel Hill, Denham. Welcome, gentlemen, to the program. 2023 elections on Saturday, the economics of it. Welcome to you both. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, fantastic. Now let me start. How consequential is this election? Are the elections that will take place on Saturday, the 6th one from 1999, 24 years of uninterrupted democracy? Let me quickly ask you, Tajuddin, what you think in a few seconds, and the same question will go to you, Wilson.
Well, I think it is a very important election, considering that it is an opportunity for Nigerians to, number one, elect a leader that will positively change the governance of Nigeria. Number two, and when I say bring about positive changes in governance, I'm talking about improvement in transparency, improvement also in accountability, on the part of the government. It is also very important because we need to elect a leader that will drive Nigeria's economic fortunes in a faster way and bring forth to all Nigerians the benefits of being an independent country.
Okay, Wilson, what's your own view?
Well, for me, I think it's an election. It's not just an election that will decide the next 4 years for Nigeria. It's something that will decide perhaps the next decade for our country. And why I say this is because if you look at the global economy, right? I mean, we live in a much more volatile world, right? There's a war going on in Europe, right? The cost of living crisis, across many countries. We have global supply chain bottlenecks, and even the advanced countries, right, are feeling the heat of what's happening. And then countries are looking inwards to see how they can, produce goods for themselves rather than relying excessively on exports. There's also a technological revolution. We've seen lots of innovation coming up, disrupting, work and all of that. Back home here, in the last 7 years, we've had, 2 recessions, right? The GDP numbers just came out recently, 3.1% growth in 2022, which is, quite lower than what we had a year before. Inflation above 20%, unemployment quite high, at 33%. Poverty, still very high, 133 million Nigerians. So, I mean, a lot of things are happening. Nigerians have gone through a lot in the last 7 years. And I think, this is an election that will determine Nigeria's trajectory. So the question, therefore, is who will Nigerians, hand over their future to navigate them in this complex and more volatile world?
Okay, I know that both of you have seen the pictures of those 4 gentlemen there, the 4 gladiators, so to speak, that the front liners for this election. We have Bola Tinubu, we have Atiku Abubakar, we have Rabi Kwakwanso, and Peter Obi. So if you take a look at these men, for Nigerians that are either, let me use their slogan, whether they are either batified, articulated, obedient, or Kwakwansia. I know that both of you have been watching the rallies, have been watching the debates, have been watching the discussions around these 4 men. How satisfied are you with the ideas that all the men brought forward as to fixing Nigeria's economic crisis? Tajudeen, are you there? Can you take that?
I'm not going to be specific about any of the candidates, and what I'm just going to say is that if we look at those 4 candidates that you have pictured, I think what is very important for us is to understand what their focuses are around, number 1, governance, generally speaking. What the focuses also are around, the economy, and very importantly around, security. And, we should also focus around, what their targets and ideas are in terms of ensuring that this country will go back to like the 1970 years where we, largely speaking, were producing and exporting to other countries, and our focus was not on crude oil. We were very present and productive on the non-crude oil sector of Nigeria, and we really were generating substantial money in terms of foreign currency. That speaks to local production. It speaks to also infrastructure that will aid and support all those local production, and then we talk about exporting to other countries. This, largely speaking, is an indication of where we should be in terms of economic diversification, in terms of production, and also in terms of consumption as a country and exporting. Focus should be diversified away from crude oil to other key elements in terms of non-oil. The second thing that I would like to talk about is around competing globally. I have heard one of the candidates, without necessarily mentioning a name, I have heard one of them, talk about, competing favorably, for Nigeria to compete favorably in the oil and gas space. And the focus is around, gas in this case. We recognize that Russia, for example, is, very present in Europe when you talk about, gas supply. And, why can't Nigeria also compete in that regard when we have huge reserves of, enough gas that we actually flow? So we have some of all those components for consideration. Savings is very important for a country to have huge savings. One of the candidates has been focused on that, and I reckon that Nigerians should look in that direction. Investment is another very key element that some of them are into this country, because as we speak, we are at the lowest level in historical years, in terms of attracting, foreign investment into this country to support economic growth as a whole. I'm going to leave it there, and then, we proceed much after.
Okay, Wilson, what's your own view as to the question with it? As we're just about 48 hours to the presidential elections, do you think that Nigerians are going to go to the polls with the satisfaction of getting the house from the presidential candidates that have been speaking in the last few months? Or do you think that they will be going to the polls with something else on their mind, perhaps ethnicity, religion, and all of that? Do you think that this election will be more of an economic election?
Well, I think, first of all, you should, for main candidates, as it were, and in a few years back, right, I'm sure you would have shown maybe 3 or 2, right? So I think for Nigeria, that's something quite good. The fact that we're having this breadth, across the political parties, and ensuring that more people are gaining that sort of prominence among the masses. So I think that's something quite good. In terms of whether or not people will look at these, what will decide people's decisions, or choices on that day, I think it's a combination of both economic factors and non-economic factors, right? I mean, you can't separate the economy from what people are feeling, right? When we talk about unemployment, poverty, and some of these numbers, people tend to think, oh, economists are here putting out numbers, but the actual fact is that these are lives of people. These are, everyday experiences of what people are feeling. But also, we've seen cases where, political affiliations, tribal and religious affiliations are also, still playing quite an important role in the elections. And I don't think that will go anywhere anytime soon. And another key factor for me, I mean, if you watch a football match, right, the referee is also very important, especially in making decisions, making the calls, the fouls, and all that. So in this case, referring to the electoral body, INEC, and even all the other stakeholders, the non-state actors, I think a combination of how all of these players, play their roles will also influence, the outcomes or the state of the economy that will influence their decisions. We've seen some people would obviously vote for a candidate based on the fact that he's from their region, he's from maybe their village, and all of that. We see that happen in Nigerian election. I don't think this will be different.
Okay, Wilson, just to let you know also that I watch football match, so I understand. I'm a football fan, and my club is Chelsea. So those of you that are Arsenal fans, don't come for me, please. Enjoy your ride now. I know that for Chelsea, perhaps we are number 8 or number what on the league, so don't even come for me. Don't come for me. But let's talk about the referee, just like you mentioned earlier, which is INEC. I mentioned at the beginning of this program that the election will conduct on Saturday, and on March 11 will be the costliest ever. Over 300 billion marked for this election, apart from the about 40 to 50 billion naira for INEC's annual budget. Do you think that INEC will deliver value vis-a-vis the amount that the electoral body will be spending this year? We don't want to hear story, do we, as Nigerians, with the amount of money? Yeah. Okay, so for me, I think we should expect them to
to deliver value, and the starting points to begin to understand what that number looks like, which is 305 billion is what has been budgeted, but that excludes about 40 to 50 billion annual budget for them. If we focus on just that 305 billion, what we note is that number is about 61% higher than what we spent for the 2019 election. So if we put it in economic sense, let us consider the consumer price index. Between 2019 and 2023 January, the consumer price index, for instance, has increased by 84%. So which means that the budget about 305 billion that INEC has pushed forward, that is to be spent, is not ahead of inflation if we consider the fact that they have to make several procurements and also put in place all the equipment they need, the staff, and cater for them as well. So bearing all this in mind, I think fine, it is the highest that the country has spent on election, but it is also a reflection of the state of the economy as a whole in terms of how inflation prepared are they. And I think for the most part that I have listened to since like yesterday, if we I think I am comfortable that they sound prepared, and they've started to deploy all the election materials to various states, and Lagos State is one of the key states that I think they have reached, and we will expect them to cover more grounds today. Whatever INEC does on the day of election is largely speaking dependent on the level of security that is provided for them. This is where I think Nigerians should also watch out for, and the government should ensure that there is tight security around INEC staff, around polling booths, and even also around the ballot boxes. It is when we have all this in place that one can rest assured that the election will be peaceful and also considered free and fair. I think those are very crucial elements to my mind.
Let me bring in Wilson and ask about this INEC preparedness in the area of the over 93 million eligible voters that are expected to queue at the polls on Saturday. What does this also say for Nigeria? For Nigerians, taking a look at over 70%, about 75% of that population is between the ages of 18 and 49. How do you think that this would also translate?
Well, what this means is that a lot of people are, interested. A lot of people are, trying to get involved to decide who will become Nigeria's next president. And even more than ever before, we've seen many young people, deciding that they will vote in this election. And I think that's something quite remarkable, and it's something good for the country. And also, Tajudeen also spoke about, the amounts budgeted for this election by INEC. I think a large part of it would also be the increasing number of voters, in anticipation that we should get from this election, and judging by what we have in terms of registration. So that also is a costly thing that the INEC would need to prepare for all of that, logistics and other issues. So I think it's quite good that many Nigerians are willing to vote, but what we will be looking at, is whether or not this would translate into actual voting, whether people will come out. We've seen, in the past cases where people just want the card, as a means of identity, right? You need it to open maybe a bank account or something, but we hope that this time a lot of people will come out. And especially because at the beginning you showed us that there are quite a diversified number of leading candidates, or main candidates. So hopefully we will get to see Nigeria exercise their choices, on Saturday to put a leader forward that will address, all of these huge, problems that we're facing now. Some of them occasioned by the global environment, so some of them caused by maybe some level of inaction and decisions that we should have taken, but we did not locally.
Okay, Tajuddin, let me come to you. But before I come to you, let's take this card if we're ready with that. The Nigeria's economy at a glance. Of course, Nigeria's population as at 2022, according to the United Nations or the World Population Prospectus, it's estimated that Nigeria's population is at 216 million people. Don't also forget that after these elections, we will be having a national census. 39.6% below age 35, 76.5% of eligible voters are young people. Our GDP is around 440 billion US dollars. GDP per capita, $2,065 US dollars. Some parties have, have campaigned that they will take that GDP per capita higher than 2,000 US dollars. 2022 GDP full year, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, came in at 3.10%. That came in just a few hours ago. For Q4 2022, it came in at 3.5%. So what you're seeing there, let me just explain to our viewers. 2022 GDP means that the economic growth for Nigeria last year was at 3.10%, which is still far less than our population growth. Life expectancy in Nigeria, 53 years old. Unemployment rate at 3.3%. Literacy level, 62%. Of course, Nigeria's size 923,768 square kilometers. 63% of us are 461 to $1 US. So that's the data that we will be looking at as we go to the polls on Saturday. Does that make sense, Tajuddin? Do you think that Nigerians are interested in what I've just read out? Is it that they're interested, or is that
if you ask me that question, I will say that the only Nigerians that are interested in the question that you asked are the educated Nigerians, and in most cases the very savvy Nigerians. They are the ones that look at those numbers and are interested in it. At the same time, we have foreign investors and also foreign partners of the country that are interested in the numbers. If you understand what I mean, the likes of the World Bank, the likes of INEC, and some other different development, finance institutions are largely speaking interested in the numbers that you showed. And for us at Chapel Hill Ghana, we believe that there are some 6 to 7 key elements that has to bear in mind and put in place and address those key issues. Number one is around, you showed, foreign currency. We believe that with FX rate, speaking about the dollar-naira exchange rate in this case, we believe there should be a devaluation that will reflect the actual value of the naira across all the market, because when we do this, it will breed confidence in foreign investors to come to this country, because they will have some reasonable level of prediction around where exchange rate is, and they will be dealing with only one exchange rate instead of the several rates that we have. Number two element in my mind is around infrastructure development. We need to focus on education. We need to focus on health. Very importantly, we have to fix security. We have to ensure that we have provision of employment, because when you provide employment, you provide a lot of other opportunities around pension, for instance, around increase in consumption. We have all these elements, and if you take a look at one of the key numbers that you showed, that number is our economic growth. 3.1% is the number for the full year of 2022, but At the same time, we are growing our population by close to 3%. What that means is that the economy is not really developing as much as it should. For us to have a commendable growth rate, we'll be talking about high single digits, maybe like 9%, or even more compelling double digit growth rate, about 14-15%. How do you achieve this if you do not have the right leader that will steer the ship in the right direction? So these are some of the elements that I believe that very savvy investors or Nigerians will be looking at before the vote on Saturday. Not many Nigerians will be looking in that direction, but the educated and the very savvy one will look in that direction, and I think some of those candidates have that without necessarily mentioning anybody's name.
Wilson, do you agree with Tajuddin on that? As to many Nigerians are not looking at these numbers, but these numbers have human faces, and these numbers are human beings. These numbers are feeling that there's no money in the pockets. These numbers are feeling that food prices are going up. These numbers are human beings. So do you really agree with Tajuddin on that? That is people like us, foreign investors, people that have, have financial knowledge, people that are a bit savvy, that understand what these numbers are.
Well, I think it's a mixture of both, but I agree with Tajuddin, because like I mentioned earlier, there's still people that would vote based on political affiliation, right? Maybe they are close to power, maybe in one of the candidates, team, and perhaps they are looking for a case where he wins, I become XYZ, right? There are people like that. There are people who would vote for a person regardless of whatever his policies are. I mean, some of them may not even know what the person's plan is. It's just about where the person is from. Some would vote based on religion, religious affiliation, and all of that. So yes, I think large extent among those who are based on what some of the candidates have been saying. But I think majority of Nigerians will I don't think they would pay attention to these economic issues, just like Tajuddin has said, right? So which brings me to the point that we also need to make a lot of investments in education, getting people to understand basic data and statistics. I'm not sure how many people would even understand the manifesto of these candidates, especially when we're talking about people who sit in offices with laptops and can read. How many of these translations have been done in terms of local languages to reach out to people in the remote areas? So I'm not sure how much of progress we've done in that area, and that is a job for even the candidates themselves and even other stakeholders who understand these numbers to make the right choices.
Tajuddin, let me come to you as we round up. We have about 5 minutes to round up, and I don't know if you saw the article on Bloomberg, and let me just read the heading. It did say investors already bet Nigeria's next leader has no chance of fixing the fiscal crisis. Was that alarming for you, that whosoever comes in will not be able to fix Nigeria's fiscal crisis?
Well, I think that is the perspective of foreign investors, and I do not really blame them, because it is an indication of what they hear from wherever they are located in their country. Look at those numbers internally. We understand where the pressure or where the issues are. We know that one of the key problems for this country is the ability to generate revenue to be enough to cover our debt servicing, and also we still have substantial part of it available to invest in infrastructure and any other capital expenditure in the budget. And this is where I believe, I really do not agree with them 100%, because I think we have at least one or two of, the candidates, for the Saturday poll that, is really determined to lift Nigeria in terms of, revenue generation, for the ability of the government to be able to generate more in terms of revenue. And my mind is that, the focus will be on non-oil tax revenue. By the time, if you look at non-oil revenue for this country, passing, or at least, being close to the budget in the past couple of years, that is commendable. And I think any new strategy around ensuring that we fire on bigger non-oil revenue for the country will make a positive impact. We will not get there this year. Maybe from like 2024, the story is going to change, and my sense is that voters will themselves see how those numbers change if we choose and elect the right leader on Saturday.
So Wilson, coming to you now as we're rounding up, do you think that if we're able to conduct a credible election on Saturday, that will be a moral booster? Not just a moral booster also, but with the economy?
Absolutely, because if you look at almost all of the international agencies, I mean, Fitch also did a report, and they were also quite, they based their projections on what will happen after the elections. Of course, we all know that elections come with uncertainty, right? But reading that Bloomberg article, I mean, even the headline, I completely disagree with some of the positions they had, saying that Nigeria's next leader has no chance of fixing the fiscal crisis. That in itself, can you be, right? I mean, they didn't even base that on the candidates to say maybe candidate A, B, C or so, right? It's almost like whoever emerges as president cannot do anything. And you're wondering, so why are we having an election in the first place? So I completely disagree with that kind of perspective, because as Nigerians, right, this is a major election, like I've mentioned over time, and yeah, so we need to exercise this right and be hopeful that things would turn out well. They also did not even look at the time dimension, right? If you said in the short term things are difficult, and yeah, it would be difficult to fix them in 1 year and 2 years, I think that really makes sense. But to rule out the fact that no one can fix these problems we have, I don't think that's an appropriate approach. But I think one thing is also clear, that whoever emerges president, right, I mean, needs to hit the ground running, from the start. We can't afford to, go the trajectory of 2015, when after the elections, it took us quite a while to put up a team together, to put up a cabinet minister. I think the cabinet, a set of ministers, right? So this time is different, right? Things are quite difficult. So we need to hit the ground running, put up a credible cabinet, a cabinet of competent people who have expertise in that area to, make policy decisions, attract investment into the country. And if you look at Nigeria's investment inflows in the last couple of years, right? I mean, just in 2021, we had about $6.7 billion inflows. FDIs has remained under $1 billion, around $1 billion, over time, right? And for Nigeria, I think that is really, really small. In terms of diversification, finally, I think one of the key things that we've seen is that the inability of us to take advantage of even higher oil prices. So I'm not for one that would say, diversify away from oil. Like, it's almost like let's kill oil to grow the non-oil sector. I think it has to be a combination of both, right? Crude oil sector has been in recession, right, since 2020. I mean, it's posted consecutive negative growth for 11 quarters, even when you look at the last quarter figures that the NBS released. And what it means is that we are losing dollars of revenues that could have been used to finance some of these fiscal problems that we're having. Or it's almost like it deals.
Okay, Wilson, Thank you very much. We've got to go now. Wilson Eromobo is the senior economist at Nigerian Economic